Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Road to Master. Hope you're all having an amazing day. We're starting off with the white pieces against a 2043 from Brazil, and you know what? We're going with the King's Indian attack again because it worked out okay yesterday. I think I don't really remember, to be honest. I know we definitely played it. We have an early Bishop G4. Okay. Okay. We'll just do our usual setup because that doesn't scare me. Does not scare me one bit. We're safe in castle. They decided to push, which runs into a very similar problem as last time, right? That runs into a very similar problem as last time. They could push E3, which they decide to do, and we could potentially push F3, but we could also just take the pawn. I'm very tempted to just take the pawn because it's a free pawn. You know how I feel about free pawns. We take free pawns every day of the week. I'm not scared of queen there either. Our bishop covers. It just depends on where we want to move our knight to. They're unlikely to long castle. But they are likely to go rook d8, which does potentially scare me. I'm almost tempted to go knight e4 here. In fact, I'm very tempted to go knight e4. Knight takes, bishop takes potentially. We also have like queen b3, and the rook comes in. I'm tempted to do that. Extremely. I don't really care about this pawn. I would like it to not fork my queen and rook, but it doesn't at the minute, luckily. Queen b3 looks so nice, right? Queen b3 looks extremely nice. I will go for queen b3. There is still no takes because I have mating threats here. Everything's all covered nicely as well. If bishop goes there, anything can happen. Anything can happen. I'm tempted to do a lot of things here. I'm extremely tempted to do takes. Then even replace the knight there. Then we're going after this pawn. In fact, I might do that. You can't go f3, unfortunately, because you're blocking in your bishop there. You could potentially go there. I don't think anything tactically works there just yet, unfortunately. So we might have to do takes. And this takes with check as well, so we're all good on that front. And then the knight goes back there, threatening takes again. If they push, what do we do? I'm not sure. What do we have? What do we have? What do we have? There's got to be something here. This looks like just such a nice position. There has to be some tricks, right? We could go h3. I don't really know what h3 does for us, though, if anything. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like we've got a good position. We're still a pawn up. This is likely to fall at some point. I'm not too stressed about that. I'd like to get this rook in the game somehow. But for that, we would need to move the bishop. And there's not really anywhere we can move this bishop. We can't go to d2 because they have the threat of f5. Forcing our only defender of the bishop to move, unfortunately. We have knight f2. Potentially nice. Potentially nice. But h3 does the same thing. And the bishop either wants to take or go to g6 at some point where it's quite well placed, actually. Do we have like a queen b5 with knight takes, bishop takes, takes? That could actually potentially be a thing. We're going to b5. b5 is threatening takes immediately. They can't push b6 because takes. So they might actually be a bit stuck here. We're also covering e2 at the same time, which I like. They decide to not do that. Well, we could just take here with either the queen or the knight. Probably with the queen. Yeah, we'll do with the queen. This bishop's not looking too good. This bishop can now take this pawn, but we have got a pawn in return for that, which is fine. We're threatening to take the queen. They don't want it. They don't want the trade, which is fine by us. Fine by us. It was not the end of the world that we got that trade. I still want to take this. Can we force more trades somehow? Not particularly. We can't really hit this pawn again. We need to move. We need to develop this rook as well, really badly. Where do we move our queen? Where do we move our queen is one of the questions. Let's just go back here. I mean, what's the problem with that? We're threatening that. We're threatening that. I would love to play e4 and get this bishop active somehow. There, rook there. I think we just take, right? I think we just take. They're giving us more pawns. They're giving us more pawns, folks. What do we think about getting more pawns? I am all for one for it. I am very much for having more pawns. I love having more pawns. They decide to do that, which is fine by us. Fine by us. We've got to be careful slightly of where we move this rook now. Probably just to e1. Is safe. I can see them playing an f5 at some point. We're hitting the bishop, so the bishop has to move somewhere. And we can think about that. This. Yeah, this could work. Takes, bishop takes. Queen takes. We've got some weak dark squares, so maybe light squares. So maybe I don't want to trade off the light squared bishop right now. Do we have a4? I like a4 as an idea. The rook's supporting the pawn, so there's no worry about that. The bishop has to move. Where it moves, I don't know. It goes there. Now we get this fork, which is extremely, extremely nasty. Hitting the queen, hitting that with the discovered attack on the knight as well. How do you deal with that? I don't honestly think you can. I'd rather get the bishop than the knight because the bishop's annoying and we have weak light squares. But I don't think we're going to get a choice, to be honest, unfortunately. We could potentially get both. Let's get that, and then we'll get the knight as well. Which I'm happy about. We'll take with the queen. I think is the safest idea, really. Then we have like queen f3 if we need it. And we're up, what, 2 pieces here? I'd take that any day. I would happily take that anyway. We're looking to trade off queens here. Is that unstoppable? I think that is an unstoppable queen trade. Love to see it. They resigned. That was one hell of a game. Wow, I'm super, super happy with that. Really happy. I mean, we were crushing. I hate to say we were crushing, but we were crushing. Like, we just kept going up pawns. 89.7 versus 77.3, 2450 versus 1900. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. So decide to play d5. Of course, we started off with knight f6 going into our King's Indian attack. c3 is our usual move, just because I don't like d4. I don't think I probably should learn to play without c3 to develop better, but it's safe and I like it, so I don't see a problem with it. They go e5, usual stuff, getting space, castles, and we've got our setup here. The only thing we don't have is e4, which tempts them to actually push e4 themselves, which we saw actually in the last episode. They went for the exact same thing, and it happened the exact same way. Knight g5 wins a pawn. Unfortunately here, they do have this really nice idea of e3. Sort of a desperado. If you don't know what a desperado is, by the way, it's not something you come across a lot. But you're losing material anyway, so you might as well gain some quote-unquote compensation for losing the material. So they pushed a pawn, and then they force us to take here. Apparently you go here, which threatens mate, which is quite nice. I actually really like that. But then what? Like, what's the point? Like, you've done that, so what? They go queen there. Then what? You know, you just take. Knight c4. What is the point of knight c4? They could just take with check, but then they're just opening up your rook, which has to be good, right? So they go h6 instead. No, h6, not a6, duh. Kicking out this knight, which is annoying. Knight e4, and I guess you don't have to deal with this pawn. You just keep developing, keep playing. Wow. Shows you what I know. We took the pawn. Apparently goes back to a significant, like, even playing ground. Like, we were 1.2 up. Now we're 0.6, which is significant to say the least. The best move is to take this knight, which seems ridiculously unnatural. I guess the point is, how do you defend it? I can only attack it once. It's a fork on the bishop, so they have to move bishop back to d7. They could go queen d7. I don't see what's wrong with that. The computer's saying there's something wrong with that. Anyway, we knew they were going rook d8, so we went rook e4, knight e4. Sorry. I don't remember why we did that. I think it was just to open things up. Trade off in the center, maybe. Maybe try get some more pressure on f7 as well. I'm not really sure. I don't remember. And then we went queen b3, which seems like a natural square, but the computer does not like it at all. It goes from plus 1.1 to zeros. Yeah, and they can take this anytime, but I didn't really care. I was going to go f6, f2 at one point, but obviously the rook comes in. So I would have probably had to go e1. At which point some trades happen. They have to move the bishop. And then we don't really have much pressure on f7 anymore. So maybe the queen is actually a bit misplaced on b3. And you're not really threatening to take b7 anyway, because the queen's covering that. They kick us out, we take, and then the knight goes to e4. We've got tons of weaknesses that we can try exploit here. Super happy with that. They're not really fit to castle anywhere, which I love. Our only problem is this bishop's hard to develop. But we manage without it. Basically, we manage without it. We make a threat here. They're going to struggle to defend this either way. I think they could potentially go rook there, but I mean, that's not a nice move, is it? Knight f6 wins the rook, which is nice. We take with the queen and not the knight, looking to trade off. The queen goes back to b5, which was a slow move, but I think the right one. Threatening that again. You know, the knight can come to c5, which was probably the advantage of going knight c5 in the first place, rather than queen's take. Because we kind of just shuffled back. They give us a pawn. They give us More than a pawn after that. The rook goes to e8. E1. I'm not sure why I keep saying e8. E1. Just to avoid this coming in. Which they could potentially do anyway. But again, I think the trades benefit us. Because we are up 2 pawns at the end of the day. They go here. A4 is very natural. I mean, where's the bishop going? It's got to go to one of these 2 squares. I don't think this one looks right. I don't think this one looks right at all. But then again, this one we saw falls to the fork. So, I don't know. Apparently, knight a5 is the move. Wow. But you still end up winning the piece, I think. No, and then they throw in that tricky move. Oh, but the fork is nice. The fork is very nice. Still, though, the bishop escapes. The bishop escapes. Maybe. I'm not sure. Wow. That's cool. But again, 2 pawns. So, 2 pawns. They give us the fork. We trade off. Unfortunately, they can't avoid us trading everything off. And then the queen comes to e4. Forces the queens off. Where can it really go? Can't go there, 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 there. Can't go there, there, there. Can't go there, there, there. Can't go there, there. So it has to trade off, which will benefit us. We're up a piece, up 2 pawns. What is there to not like? Anyway, thank you all for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. Please like if you liked. Please subscribe if you really liked. And I'll catch you guys all tomorrow. Bye-bye.